The room was too quiet, inside the great hall of the Cedrone Orbital Station. Leaders from both Earth and the alien Cedrone Collective stood in a perfect line. Their faces were calm to calm. Cameras hovered in the air, recording every moment. For the galaxies watching, the treaty, the one that was supposed to bring peace after 30 years of war, sat on the silver table between them. One document. 2 pens. No trust. President Alina Rourke of Earth kept her eyes on the Cedron High Chancellor Vesktile. He had smooth, pale skin and 4 narrow eyes. His face didn't move, not a twitch. She wondered if his people had ever learned how to smile. Behind her, General Marta Reyes stood with her arms crossed, silent as a shadow. She had not wanted this treaty, not because she loved war, but because peace offered by the enemy always came with a hidden knife. "Shall we begin?" Vestal asked. His voice was flat and deep, like metal scraping stone. Rourke nodded slowly. "Yes. Let's make history." The treaty was simple on paper. The war would end immediately. All weapons of mass destruction would be dismantled. Both sides would share trade, technology, and cultural exchange. No ships would fly armed past the neutral zone. It sounded perfect, but perfection was a lie. As Rourke reached for the pen, General Reyes's hand twitched slightly at her side. She was watching something else, something behind the Sadrons. There, just for a second, a thin blue light blinked on one of the Sadron officers' collars. A private signal no one else noticed. Rourke signed first. Vesktile followed. Document glowed faintly, confirming a successful biometric signature from both species. The cameras zoomed in on the flashing approval symbol. Cheers erupted on Earth. News networks screamed, "Peace at last." Children danced in the streets. Soldiers began packing their gear. Human colonies started lowering their defense shields. But back on the station, General Reyes didn't smile. In the private briefing room later that day, Rourke and Reyes sat across from each other. The celebration had ended. The real work had just begun. "You saw it too, didn't you?" the president asked. Reyes nodded. "Cedron officer sent a signal right as you signed. Encoded. Short burst. Can you trace it? Already working?" "On it, but that's not what worries me." "Then what does?" Reyes pulled up a holographic file. It showed images of Sadron fleet movements. Tiny, almost harmless shifts. But when mapped over a full star chart, the pattern looked like a trap. A net slowly closing. They're moving, quietly. Not retreating, not standing down. "Just surrounding us," Reyes said. Rourke rubbed her temples. "And if we raise an alarm now, we'll look like the warmongers. They know we can't." "Stop the treaty now," Reyes said. "But that's the mistake they made." Rourke looked up. "Why?" "Because we didn't come to the table blind." Reyes stood and walked to the wall. She tapped a hidden panel. It slid open, revealing a locked case. She placed her hand on the scanner. It opened. Inside was a sleek black tablet, military grade. She tapped through layers of encryption. Then she turned the screen toward the president. On it was Project Vigilant, a top-secret human intelligence program. It had been running for 5 years, scanning every Sadron broadcast, intercepting whispers, decoding fragments of conversation. "We never stopped watching," Reyes said. "Not for a second." The screen showed fragments of intercepted messages, half-translated, Operation Hollow Earth. Once the treaty is signed, Phase 2 begins. Human defenses will drop. That's when we strike. Rourke's eyes hardened. "So it's a trap." "It's a clever one," Reyes said, "but not clever enough." They both knew what had to be done. Earth had agreed to peace, but Earth had also prepared for betrayal. A separate plan, one only a handful of people knew about, was already in motion. While diplomats smiled for the cameras, humanity had been building weapons the Sadrons didn't know existed. Ships that didn't appear on scanners. Bases buried beneath moons and asteroids. Units trained in silence, sworn to secrecy, waiting for the signal. If the Sadrons wanted to strike first, they would be walking into a minefield. On the edge of Mars, deep underground, a man named Elias Creed opened his eyes. His team had been in cold sleep for over 6 months. Around him, men and women blinked, stretched, and stood to attention as red lights flashed across the base. Creed checked his command tablet. One line of text blinked. Treaty signed. Phase 1 go. No emotion showed on his face. He simply nodded. Once, and began issuing orders. They were shadowing Earth's most secret strike force, invisible, untraceable, deadly. Wake the others, he said. It begins. Back in orbit, the Sadran fleet commander Relzer watched the Earth. Broadcast replay for the 3rd time. He didn't trust the humans. No alien in the galaxy did. But the treaty had to look real for now. A junior officer approached. Sir. Encrypted message received from command. Operation Hollow Earth approved. Step 1. Test human reaction.
Relzer
Narrowed his eyes. What's the target? Outpost Epsilon. Outer Rim colony. Minimal defense. Do it. Make it look like an accident. No survivors. As the officer left, Relzer turned back to the screen. He froze the image on President Rourke's face as she signed the treaty. There was something strange in her eyes, not joy, not relief. It looked like calculation. He didn't like it. On Earth, media reports flooded every channel. Experts debated the future of human and alien cooperation. Celebrities made tribute songs. Everyone believed war was over. Everyone except a few. That night, deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean, another hidden base came alive. Robots stirred, launch tubes filled with fuel. Satellite links came online. It was all automated just like the plan said. No one knew. No one outside the inner circle ever would. The Sadrans believed they were clever. They thought humans would fall asleep at the promise of peace. But they didn't understand Earth's history. Humanity had been betrayed before by its own kind. Even peace had always come with a price. But this time, Earth wasn't paying. It was collecting in a dark chamber beneath Earth's capital. General Reyes stared at a glowing map of the stars. Red lights marked known Sedran fleets. Blue markers represented known human forces. But hidden in the shadows were gray dots and counted unregistered. That was where the real fight would happen. Where Earth's hidden sword would strike. Let them come, she whispered. We're ready. And far across the stars, the Sedran commander smiled as he received the order to begin the first test incident. He didn't know he had just walked into a trap of his own. Peace was dead before it ever began. But only humanity knew it. A soft beep echoed in the silence. Deep in a secure station orbiting Saturn, technician Mira Chen sat alone at her post. The room was dark, except for the glow of monitors and data streams. Nothing ever happened here. The station, codenamed Quiet. I was meant to listen, not act, until now. Mira blinked. A strange signal had appeared on her screen. It was short, just 3 seconds long, faint, wrapped in an alien encryption signature. Sedran, but it hadn't come through public channels. It had come through a backdoor frequency no one used, or at least no one was supposed to. She ran it again. Origin, Sadran, High Command Vessel. Timestamp. Exactly 12 minutes after the treaty was signed. Contents, encrypted burst, unknown language. Variant Mira hesitated. Her training said to log and report. No, but something about the signal bothered her. No. It didn't feel like a regular transmission. It felt like a whisper. She forwarded the burst to Earth's intelligence. 3 hours later, it landed on the desk of Director Wallace, chief of the Earth's Strategic Intelligence Division. He didn't even blink. He just tapped a command into his secure terminal and opened a line to General Reyes. It's begun, he said. We just caught them talking in code. Right after the treaty. Reyes leaned forward. Any idea what it says? Only one decoded phrase so far. Operation Hollow Earth. Initiate Phase 1. Reyes stared at him. Hollow Earth. Wallace nodded. Their operation. Our warning. On a hidden moon base near Neptune, Shadow Wing Commander Elias Creed stood before his squad. They wore matte black armor, no insignias, no lights, no names. Intel confirms it, he said. Sedrons are moving early. We're greenlit for full surveillance and counter-sabotage. One soldier raised a hand. Rules of engagement? Creed. Didn't hesitate. Observe. Record. But if they touch a human colony, he paused. We bury them. Across the galaxy, the Sedrons were moving quietly. No major fleet shifts, just single ships here and there. Science vessels, cargo, freighters, ambassadors. But they were landing in odd places. Human mining colonies, terraforming stations, communications relays, always with a polite smile and always asking for access. Back on Earth, Reyes stood before a panel of silent officers in a blacked-out war room. They're placing scouts, not soldiers, she said. But that's worse. They're checking weak points, looking for openings. We can't strike first, one admiral warned. Not without proof. Reyes nodded. That's why we'll make them reveal themselves. Operation Bachmirror was approved within minutes. Earth's secret plan to let the Sedrons take just enough rope to hang themselves. Part of that plan was Epsilon Outpost, a lonely little colony orbiting a dying star, home to just 43 people. Technically, it was a research base. Secretly, it was bait. The Sedrons had already shown interest in Epsilon. One of their peace envoys had requested a tour of the facility just 2 days after the treaty. Was signed too fast, too eager. Back at Quiet Eye, Mira Chen watched another blip appear. Unmarked ship entering Epsilon's airspace, she muttered. She tapped her Command, this is Quiet Eye. We've got Sedron movement on target. Sight. The voice on the other end answered instantly. Keep eyes on. Do not engage. This is the test. What? Epsilon's crew welcomed the Sedron ship politely, smiled, gave them the tour. Good. Pretended not to notice when the alien ambassador lingered too. Long near the security systems. What the Sedrons didn't know was that the entire base had been wired with hidden cameras, audio mics, and biometric scanners. They were being recorded from every angle. And human analysts were watching. What they saw next made their blood run cold. One Sedron ambassador tapped a panel on the Walt. We said him quickly turned away. It was subtle. Almost nothing. A soft ping confirmed it. A data probe had been planted. Hidden malware wrapped in Sedron code. They were trying to take control of the base's comms. Confirmed sabotage, said one analyst. They just tried to hijack the relay. Reyes gave the order. Don't stop them. Let them think it worked. For 2 more hours, the Sedrons acted normal. Smiles, handshakes, farewell speeches. Then they boarded their ship and left. Believed they had just compromised a human colony. What they didn't know was that a shadowing team had already followed their malware back to its source. And what they found was worse than anyone expected. A hidden Sedron command, relay disguised, as a cargo ship sitting just outside the neutral zone. From there, the aliens were monitoring dozens of human outposts. Creed's team tapped the ship's signal. The logs said it all. Hollow Earth Phase 2. Proceed with silence. Human systems compromised. Full attack window in 12 days. Reyes read the report with clenched teeth. They've already set the date, she said. 12 days from now. They plan to strike. Wallace looked up. Do we wait? No, Reyes said. We show them we know, but how? She turned to the screen and opened a line to Commander Creed. I want that spy ship disabled. Quietly. No survivors. No evidence. Let them wonder what happened. Creed grinned. With pleasure, the attack was silent and surgical. A stealth drone released an EMP pulse. The ship powered down instantly. Within minutes, Shadow Wing boarded. The Sedron crew never knew what hit them. Back on their homeworld, Sedron High Council received word that one of their cargo ships had gone missing. Human treachery? One asked. The High Chancellor frowned. No, if they knew. Speak louder. But that was the mistake. Humans didn't yell anymore. They planned. They watched. And when the time came, they struck hard and fast. 12 days were all the Sedrons had left, and Earth had already begun the countdown. The scream came first. Mayday. Mayday, they're not who they say they then. Silence. The distress signal from Epsilon Outpost was short. 17 seconds. The last voice anyone heard belonged to Dr. Lena Voss, the colony's chief scientist. She sounded terrified. General Reyes played the recording 5 times in the Earth Defense Command bunker. Each time, she listened closely, hoping for a new clue. There was none. She tapped the console. "Do we have satellite visuals?" "Mom," replied Commander Lung. "Comms went down right after the transmission. No camera feed, no heat signatures. It's like they vanished." Reyes turned slowly toward the map. A red circle now blinked around Epsilon's position. A human colony. Gone. No survivors. No warning. Just like that, she whispered. They erased it. Someone in the room spoke carefully. Could be a natural disaster. The star near Epsilon is unstable. Reyes didn't even blink. No, that wasn't nature. That was precision. That was a message. Across the stars, the Sadron High Chancellor sat in his chamber, watching the same feed. His aides stood behind him, still and silent. "Epsilon was a test," he said. They did not resist. They did not strike back. An advisor nodded. "We can begin the full sweep in 3 cycles." But even as he spoke, doubts stirred in Vestal's mind. Something about how easily the colony fell. It felt too easy. To clean, he didn't know that Earth had let it happen back in deep. Space Commander Elias Creed stood aboard his stealth ship,
Albie.
Argent Ghost, watching the data feed from a hidden drone. "What are they doing now?" he asked. His tech officer replied, "Sadron Recon Craft left Epsilon's orbit. They're sweeping the next sector, looking for another weak point." Creed stared at the image. "They think we're blind. Are we letting them keep thinking?" Yeah, Creed said. "For now." Meanwhile, Earth's public news didn't mention Epsilon. The incident was classified. Citizens were told it was a solar flare, a glitch, technical error. But in private, Earth's top leaders gathered under emergency protocols. President Rourke looked around the table. "We have proof now," they attacked. "A peaceful colony. Unofficially," said Reyes. "No public broadcast, no claims, no bodies left behind. They're trying to stay in the shadows. They want deniability," Wallace added. "They want to make us look like the aggressors. If we strike first." "So we don't," Rourke said. "Not yet. We bait them again. And this time we catch them in the act." Reyes opened a secure file labeled Project Embershade. "Next target. Lorien Station," she said. "It's a mining hub near the Sadron. Border staffed with former soldiers, engineers, and surveillance gear, disguised as drilling equipment." "You're using it as bait?" Wallace asked. "I'm making it a trap." Back on Sadron Prime, an alien tactician reviewed the map of human outer colonies. His clawed hand hovered over Lorien Station. Light defenses, low population, valuable minerals, strategic position. He turned to the High Chancellor. "Should be next." Vestal paused. "There's something strange about how easily we took Epsilon." "It felt offered. You believe they let us. I believe humans are never as slow as they look, but the order was already given." The Sadrons would test Lorien next. 3 nights later, a single Sadron medical freighter approached. Lorien stationed under a humanitarian flag. A request. Medical aid and shelter. A mining accident, they claimed. The humans at Lorien let them dock, opened the gates, even offered food and water. What the Sadrons didn't know was that every room, every corridor, every data terminal was watching them, feeding information to a black site command center beneath Luna's surface. When a Sadron crewman slipped away from the rest and tried to access the internal systems, just like they did at Epsilon, he triggered an invisible alert. Creed was watching. "Got them," said his comms officer. "They're trying to inject code into the relay server. Same malware signature as last time." Creed smiled. "Record everything. Let them finish." 2 hours later, the Sadrons left, thinking their sabotage was successful. Back at their ship, one of them laughed. "These humans are fools. They beg for peace while leaving their doors open." But 5 minutes after their jump to warp, their systems crashed hard. Their engines died. Lights failed. Shields flickered. A new signal appeared on their display. We saw you, we let you in. Welcome to the new war. And then the ship exploded. No one ever found the wreckage. Back at Earth, Reyes stood in front of the war map. More red. DOTs appeared Cedron ships making small moves, quiet landings. But now she had the proof. The pattern, the plan. They're spreading out, she said. Like poison. President Rourke stared at the map. Are we ready to clean them out? Reyes nodded. Almost just one more piece. What's that? We need them to make it public. One real strike. One that can't be denied. Then we dropped the hammer. Far out in space, the Sadrons began planning the final stage of their operation. A full invasion. They believed humanity was distracted, disarmed, still clinging to hope, but they didn't know. Humanity was watching and waiting, with every blade sharpened. The ice cracked. Beneath miles of frozen water in the Arctic Circle, something ancient stirred. Machines that hadn't moved in decades suddenly came to life. Red lights blinked in the darkness. Steel doors hissed open, revealing long corridors. Of dust-covered war machines, deep below the ice, in a forgotten bunker once called Facility W9, Earth's final backup plan was waking up. They called it the Ghost Fleet. General Martyr Reyes stood on the observation deck of Control Room 0, staring through the thick glass at the massive hangar below. There were hundreds of ships, sleek, black, and silent. Unmarked, untouched, built in secret, hidden from the world and even most of Earth's governments. They weren't pretty. They weren't built for peace. They were made for betrayal. A voice spoke over her shoulder. All systems green, General. Power cycling. Cruise en route. Reyes didn't turn around. Does the Sadrons have no idea? None. This fleet doesn't even exist on Earth's own star charts. She finally looked at the officer. Then it's time. Get them moving. Far above, in the quiet void near Jupiter, a lone human comes. Satellite blinked. Then it died. No explosion, no warning, just silence. Another one blinked out an hour later, then 2 more. By morning, 13 were gone. On Earth, the official explanation was solar interference. Well, that was a lie. In a secure war room under Geneva, President Rourke reviewed the new loss reports. This is it, she said. They're cutting our eyes before the strike. Reyes nodded. They're blindfolding us before the punch. It's classic Cedron strategy. But we see them, Rourke said, eyes cold. Don't we? Reyes didn't smile. We see everything. Because while the Sadrons were disabling public satellites, Earth's Black Natan, invisible mesh of hidden sensors and cloaked drones, was still active. And from that net came the news Earth had waited for. Ma'am, an analyst said. We have movement. Large Sadron warship clusters leaving their border space. No broadcasting, no diplomatic tags. All on military formation paths. Rourke's voice sharpened. Where are they heading? Toward human space. 5 colonies on the outer line. ETA. 3 days. The room fell silent. A command link. Beneath the Antarctic, in a mirrored facility twinned to W9, an AI core powered up. It had one job: orchestrate Earth's counterstrike if the Sadrons broke the treaty. The AI had a name: Watchtower. Its voice was cold and clear. Ghost Fleet systems online. Shadowing units active. Orbital response satellites armed. Defensive posture authorized. On a private frequency, Watchtower contacted Commander Elias. Creed. Phase 2 activated. You are cleared to initiate protocol. Iron Veil. Creed sat in a dim cockpit aboard his stealth ship Argent Ghost, hands on the controls, face calm. Copy that, he replied. Iron Veil is go.
Back on Sadron Prime.
High Chancellor Vestal reviewed the latest fleet report. Are the humans responding? He asked. No, Chancellor, said his aide. Their official channels still speak of peace. Vestal narrowed his eyes. Still no fleet mobilization? Nothing visible. He leaned back in his throne. Then they are truly weaker than we believed. He didn't see the small data leak in his own comms system. Didn't notice the brief flicker in his encrypted holomap. Didn't know a human. Ghost was already in his servers, watching. Hours later, deep in Earth's asteroid defense belt. 12 Ghost Fleet destroyers slipped from hidden caverns and powered up. No engine flares, no ID beacons. They were built to be invisible. Each ship carried a skeleton crew, hand-picked veterans trained for stealth warfare. They'd never served under public command. Their names weren't in military databases. If captured, they didn't exist. The ships vanished into the black, heading toward key points on the Cedron warpath. They weren't going to wait. They were going to choke the invasion before it reached Earth. Meanwhile, in the human colony of Valis 9, children played under artificial sunlight. Completely unaware that enemy ships were speeding toward them, Governor Harlow received a quiet message from Earth Command. Activate SHIELD protocol. Enemy fleet within 72 hours. He nodded once, ordered an evacuation of non-essential personnel, and activated the colony's underground defense grid. "We won't be another Epsilon," he said grimly. On day 2, a Sadron cruiser passed near Valis 9's outer orbit. It sent no transmission. It didn't need to. Hidden cameras on the colony's satellite relay caught a strange movement near the rear of the cruiser-an automated drone launcher, detaching quietly. It dropped a tiny, dark object into the colony's orbit. Probe. It started scanning immediately, hidden in electromagnetic shadows. What it didn't know was that Earth's Shadow Wing had predicted the tactic. The drone's signal was intercepted the second it turned on. Back aboard Argent Ghost, Creed received the alert. "Probe intercepted," said his comms tech. And mirrored. Creed nodded. "Send it false data. Make Valis look weak." The AI scrambled together false sensor logs, fake energy outputs, and staged visual glitches to make Valis appear underpowered. The Cedron probe took the bait. On board their main fleet vessel, the alien commander reviewed the data. "They are wide open," he said. "Valis 9 is unprepared. Then we strike tomorrow," his second-in-command asked. He nodded. "Before they see us coming?" But Earth had already seen. And Earth was waiting. Back at Facility W9, the Ghost Fleet's flagship, a black battle cruiser called the Revenant, was nearly ready. It didn't have a captain. It had a machine mind, grown from the brain scans of Earth's most brilliant tacticians. It didn't feel anger or mercy, only calculation. As the final launch sequence began, General Reyes spoke softly into a private mic. "Execute deployment, and remind the Sadrons of what they forgot." Day 3. The Sadron fleet entered Valis space. 5 warships, 6 escorts, 1 siege platform. They moved in formation, confident, clean, ruthless. The colony didn't resist, at least, not at first. Then, just as the Sadrons prepared to fire the first orbital missile, the stars shifted. 12 invisible ships decloaked. No warning, no mercy. The Revenant struck first, its railguns piercing the Cedron siege ship. In one clean shot, cutting it in half. The rest of the Ghost Fleet followed, unleashing chaos. Shockwaves rocked space. Cedron ships scattered. Missiles flared. Plasma ripped the void open. Valis 9's underground defenses came online at the same moment. Dozens of automated cannons opened fire. And then, just as quickly as it began, it ended. 13 minutes later, the Sadron fleet was gone. Not a single human ship lost. On Cedron Prime, the High Chancellor stood frozen as the battle report came in. "This cannot be," he said. "How did they know?" A voice from the shadows answered. "They knew all along." He turned to see a hologram General Reyes. Liv, broadcasting directly into his command room. "You thought peace was a trick?" She said, "You're right. Yours was. But ours," she continued. "Ours was a test." The hologram vanished. And war was now official. But this time, humanity wasn't reacting. It was leading. The airlock opened with a hiss. Inside the Grand Chamber on Europa Station, silence followed. High Chancellor Vestal stepped onto the polished floor, flanked by Cedron guards. He walked with calm precision, cold, unreadable. Across the room, President Elena Rourke waited, hands folded behind her back, surrounded by Earth's diplomats and 2 quiet soldiers. This was supposed to be the first true peace summit since the treaty, a gesture of trust, a symbol of unity, a perfect stage, but something was wrong. The Earth team had arrived first, checked every hallway, scanned every molecule of air. Still General Reyes, watching from a secure room one level above, felt the tension. Too quiet, too perfect. Something in her gut twisted. A voice rang out over the station's speakers. Recording. Begins in 3, 2, 1. Everyone stood. The summit was live. Beamed across Earth, across Sadran space, across the colonies. Billions were watching. Chancellor Vesk. Tal stepped forward and began the speech he had rehearsed in 5 different languages. Let today be the start of true peace between our peoples. Letty stopped. Something flickered behind his eyes. His hand twitched. Then he moved. Fast, too fast. He drew a blade from his sleeve. Long, thin, glowing blue. The crowd gasped. One of the Earth diplomats shouted, "Weapon!" Just before the Sadran lunged straight at President Rourke. A blast of sound and motion exploded in the chamber. Earth soldiers dove forward. Rourke didn't flinch. At the knife. Hit her chest and bounced. Hidden beneath her formal suit was military-grade armor. Thin as cloth, but stronger than steel. She stepped back, calm, as her guards tackled the Sedran attacker. Then everything went to hell. 3 more Sedran. Envoys drew weapons. Earth soldiers opened fire. Second, explosion hit the far wall. One of the Sedron guards had a concealed microbomb. Smoke, screams, and fire filled the room. But above it all, General Reyes stood frozen. Watching it happen exactly as she had predicted. They took the bait, she said quietly. Minutes later, emergency lights flickered through Europa Station. Life support systems struggled to stabilize. Earth medics moved through the rubble, searching for survivors. Chancellor Vestiel had vanished in the chaos, but President Rourke was unharmed, and the cameras. Still rolling, Earth's broadcast team had locked the feeds. Every second of the Sadran betrayal had been captured and streamed live. No more secrets. No more doubts. The galaxy had seen it with their own eyes. The Peace Summit was a trap, but it wasn't. Earth's, it was theirs, and humanity had been ready, aboard the stealth ship Argent Ghost. Commander Elias Creed received the signal. He didn't need to ask. What it meant, Europa had been the line. Now the gloves came off. Creed activated Directive Blackout. All Shadow Wing operatives across the galaxy were cleared to engage. No more watching, no more bait. Time to strike. Back on Earth, Rhea stood in front of the Global Emergency Council. They made their move, she said. Now we make ours, President. Rourke joined her, face grim. We are no longer responding, she said. We are now writing the rules. She activated a global alert, sending one message to all human colonies. Sedran peace has failed. Activate full defense protocol. Earth's skies lit up. Hidden orbital cannons powered on. Automated missile arrays unfolded from inside asteroids. Civilian transports were grounded, and military ships launched from secret bases on Luna, Mars, Titan, and beyond. Every weapon humanity had been hiding for years began moving into position. Meanwhile, Sadran Command struggled to control the narrative. Veskil issued a hasty broadcast. Today's incident was an isolated act, an extremist cell within our delegation. We had no knowledge of their plan, but no one believed him. Because Earth released footage of the same Sedran agents coordinating with fleet officers. Just days before the summit, they weren't extremists. They were operatives. The lie had shattered. The Sedran fleet began to move fast. Warships scrambled to tighten the front lines. Command ships recalled their agents. Supply routes went dark. But it was already too late. Humanity had eyes on everything. Watchtower. AI had mapped their movements down to the kilometer, and the Ghost Fleet, already in position in the outer rim colony of Corvin's Reach. A Sadran strike group arrived, ready to seize the station before Earth could react. They found the lights off. No signs of life. Their scanners showed empty corridors. No weapons. Online, no heat. So they landed, walked through the silent halls, and triggered the trap. Every wall lit up. Auto turrets activated. Steel shutters locked the exits. Gas vents pumped out knockout mist. In under 3 minutes, the entire Sadran team was unconscious. Shadowing operatives walked in, took them prisoner, and vanished. No messages sent, no shots fired, just silence. Earth was cleaning house, back in the war room. Reyes reviewed the map 20-7 Sadran. Ships disabled in just 6 hours. 4 colonies secured. 1 full broadcast station taken over and reprogrammed to send. Earth's message on every channel: peace was your trick, survival is ours. Humanity is not your prey. This war ends on our terms. And far across the stars in the Sadrone capital, Vestile stood alone, listening to the broadcast. He finally understood. The humans had never been surprised. They had waited, watched, prepared, and now they were coming. The stars above Sadrone border post 917 were calm, still silent. Then one disappeared. Commander. Talvex looked up from his tactical console, confused. One of the stars had blinked out for a moment, then came back. It wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a meteor. Something massive had passed in front of it, silent, invisible. He tapped the alert system. Unknown contact. Bearing 276, high orbit. Visual only, no radar, no engine heat. The comms officer frowned. No ID signature? Talvex shook his head. Nothing. He looked out the viewing port again and saw it. A massive black silhouette against the stars. A shape too perfect, too still. A ship. No. ... Not a ship. A weapon. Back on Earth, deep beneath the Andes Mountains, General Reyes stood in a sealed control room. Around her, senior commanders watched the data feeds as something enormous moved through Sadron space. President Rourke appeared on a private screen. "Is it active?" she asked. Reyes nodded. "Project Titan is live." Titan was Earth's final card. A mobile war platform the size of a city. Cloaked, AI-controlled, armed with weapons powerful enough to crack moons in half. It had taken 12 years to build, and no one outside of Earth's high command knew it existed, until now. The Sadrons had made their move. Now humanity would make its answer. Aboard Titan, there were no living crew. Only machines, the AI mined at. Its Corca-named Prometheus ran every system with surgical precision. It didn't hesitate. It didn't fear. Didn't negotiate. And Prometheus had already locked onto its first target, in the Sadran border system of Velraxis, military. Production base buzzed with activity. Troop ships docked and refueled. Weapon cores were loaded onto cargo freighters. It was the last large-scale supply hub before the war front. Suddenly, every light inside the station flickered, then shut off. Every screen turned black, then one line of human code appeared. "We warned you." The base never even saw the strike. From 30,000 kilometers away, Titan fired one kinetic Lanson, invisible. Rod-based projectile traveling at hypervelocity. The station was gone in seconds. No fire, no debris. Just a silent flash when Sadran Command reviewed the scene. They saw only a blank stretch of space where a military hub had once been. Back in human space, Elias Creed and the Ghost Fleet began their final phase. Strike first. End fast. Targets were already selected. Communication towers. Weapons depots, command ships, Shadow Wing teams were dropped into enemy bases with stealth pods, moving like ghosts. Planting charges. Hacking power grids. Blinding the Sadran defense net, Earth wasn't holding the line anymore. It was taking the fight to them. On Sadran Prime, panic spread. Fleet command scrambled for answers. "Who's doing this? Where are they attacking from?" "Our," shouted a junior officer. "They don't appear on sensors. They're ghosts." Vestal stood frozen. The last feed from Velraxis had come in 2 hours ago. Now, nothing. Every time they tried to scan enemy space, all they got was static. "They're jamming us," someone said. "No," Vestal growled. They're dismantling us. Silently, far from any planet in the dead zone between stars, General Reyes opened a channel to the galaxy. It was the first official war declaration from Earth since the treaty had been broken. To the Cedran leadership, we offered peace. You spat on it. We signed your treaty knowing what you would do. You expected us to kneel. Instead, you gave us time to build. Now, we take everything back, across human space. Cheers erupted as the message played. On every colony, on every warship, on every battlefield. Civilians knew the war had begun. Again, but this time, it wasn't the same. This time, humanity was in control. In Cedran space, Titan continued its march. It didn't destroy civilian centers. It didn't target hospitals. It moved with terrifying logic-only military structures, only strategic assets. And everywhere it went, it sent the same message. You broke peace. You faced the species that never forgets. On Cedran Prime, Vescal stood before his crumbling war council. One of his admirals whispered, "We underestimated them." Vescal didn't answer. He finally understood the truth. Humanity never trusted the treaty because they knew this day would come, and they were ready for it. The sky over Cedran Prime turned black. But it wasn't nightfall. It was Titan. The massive human war platform had entered orbit silent, casting a shadow over the entire capital. Cities below stared up at the dark shape, their buildings, shaking as its gravity fields distorted the air. Alarms rang. Sirens screamed. The Cedran defense grid locked on, but Titan didn't fire. It just hovered, watching, waiting. And then it spoke, not in words, in power. In power, all across Cedran Prime, every military weapon deactivated at once. Tanks shut down. Warships powered off. Turrets froze mid-turn. Their systems quietly infiltrated over weeks by Earth's AI network. Now obeyed only one command. Silence. In the Cedran War Council chamber, chaos erupted. They've paralyzed our forces. Our orbital defense network isn't responding. They're not attacking us. They've taken control. Vestal stood at the center of the madness, frozen. For once he had nothing to say. Back aboard Titan. The Prometheus AI monitored everything with perfect calm. It knew when each satellite had been overtaken. It knew the name of every commander. Panicking below, and it knew which targets to spare. Because Titan wasn't here to burn Cedran Prime. It was here to end the war on humanity's terms. Across Cedran space, human stealth fleets emerged from the dark. Ghost fleet ships decloaked around key military sectors. But they didn't fire. Instead, each one broadcast the same message. Your peace was a lie. Ours is a promise. We don't kill the weak. We dismantle the strong who abuse them. You don't get to choose peace anymore. You obey it. On Earth, billions watched in silence as President Rourke stepped before a global feed. Behind her, the Earth Defense Council stood united military leaders, scientists, civilians, even colony governors. This is not conquest, she said. This is justice. She raised her eyes to the camera. We will not become the monsters. We fought. The Cedran people will not be punished for their leaders' mistakes. But the Cedran war machine will never rise again. In Cedran cities, civilians watched as their skies filled with human drop pods, not with soldiers, but with supplies, food, water, medical aid. For decades, Cedran citizens had been taught that humans were savage, that Earth wanted blood. Now, they were watching those same humans treat their wounded and rebuild their hospitals. The people began to see the truth, and they rebelled. Not with weapons. With refusal, they refused to support. The war refused to answer military orders, refused to believe the lies. It was over. Back aboard Titan, Prometheus calculated the final outcome. Cedran fleet disabled. Q war zones stabilized. At casualty projection minimized. Objective complete. It transmitted one final code. Mission CON, then powered down quietly without glory, because it was never about revenge. It was about defense. And now the defense was done. High Chancellor Vestal was captured days Later, by his own people, his trial was broadcast across both worlds. He admitted the truth, the peace. The treaty was never real. It was a strategy, eh? Distraction. But he hadn't counted on humanity being one step ahead. Weeks later, a new treaty was signed, not on a battlefield, not under pressure, but on neutral ground, a joint space station built by both species. This time, it was signed by diplomats who meant it. The treaty wasn't built on lies or fear. It was built on what humanity had shown: strength without cruelty, strategy without ego, and mercy without weakness. In the end, the galaxy didn't just fear humans, it began to respect them. Because when peace was fake, humanity saw it coming. And when war came, humanity ended it their way, forever.